In this video, we're going to be talking about philosophy of maths or mathematics. It's a branch of philosophy that is concerned with two major questions. One is concerning the meanings of ordinary mathematical sentences, and the other is concerning the issue of whether, abstract figures or objects exist. The first is straightforward question of interpretation. What is the best way to interpret standard mathematical sentences and theories? In other words, or in other sentences, I could say what is really meant by ordinary mathematical sentence, such as 3 is a prime number, or 2 plus 2 equals 4. And there are infinitely, many prime numbers, and there are infinite prime numbers that exist. So a central task of the philosophy of maths is to construct a semantic theory for the language of maths, right? And semantics are concerned with what certain expressions mean, or they could refer to in order to discourse. So for instance, that claim that in English term the Mars denotes the Mississippi River is a false semantic theory, because the claim it would be in English the Mars is the fourth planet from the sun. That would be the true semantic theory, because that would be the true it would truly denote what it actually wants to say. So to say that a philosopher of maths are interested in figuring out how to interpret mathematical sentences is just to say that they want to provide a true or a semantic theory for the language of maths or mathematics. Philosophers are interested in the question for two main reasons. One is it is not all obvious what the right answer is, and two, the various answers seems to have a more in-depth or deeper philosophical implications, or you could say it has different interpretations of maths. Mathematics seem to have different metaphysical views about the nature of what reality is. These points can be brought out by looking at the sentences of arithmetic, which seem to have claims that are more easier to understand about certain objects. So you consider an instance that the sentence 4 is even or 8 is even. This seems to be a subject that predicates sentence of the form S is P. Like for instance, the sentence the moon is round. This latter sentence makes us an easier claim or a more straightforward claim about the moon, and likewise 4 is even or 8 is even seem to make a more easier or straightforward claim that the number 4. This, however, is where philosophers get puzzled, for it is not clear what the number 4 is supposed to be. What kind of thing is actually a number? So because some philosophers, like anti-realists, they kind of have a disbelief, or they respond with disbelief because according to them they are simply no such things as numbers, and they don't really exist, and that's their whole philosophical idea. And others, like realists, they think there are such things as numbers, as well as mathematical figures. Among these realists, however, there are several different viewpoints and what kind of a thing is a number, really. Some realists think that numbers are some mental subjects that a person has in their head, or whatever, like an idea in their head or a concept or a brainstorm. And other realists claim that numbers exist outside of a person's head, so such thing as the physical world or the idea of the physical world. But there is, however, a more different view. There's another way, and there's another thing about the way of numbers is the nature of numbers is Platonism, and this is it's mathematical Platonism. It's more popular in history of philosophy, that the view of numbers are abstract. They're abstract figures, where the abstract figure is both non-physical and non-mental, according to Platonists. Abstract figures exist, but not anywhere in the physical world or in a person's mind, right? In fact, they don't really exist in space and time at all. And what follows more will be said to clarify exactly what Platonists have in mind by an abstract subject or an abstract figure. However, it is more important to note that many philosophers simply do not believe in abstract figures, that they think to believe in abstract figures or objects that are wholly non-spatial, temporal, right, and non-physical and non-mental. So it's to believe in the real, believe in a weird, occult entity. In fact, the question of whether abstract figures exist is one of the oldest, and it's very controversial. It's probably one of the most controversial questions in philosophy, or all philosophy, I guess. But the view that there do exist such things goes back to even Plato, so Platonism, and serious resistance to the view can be traced back even to Aristotle. There's obviously a controversy for a long year. We're not going to talk about that controversy for long years, but the second major question, which the philosophy of mathematics is concerned, is: do abstract objects or figures actually exist? Or this question is related to the semantic question, about how sentences and mostly theories of maths or mathematics should be interpreted. So if, let's say Platonism is right, that the best interpretation of mathematics is the sentences such as, we'll go back to 4, 4 is even, or 8 is even, and they're about, abstract figures, and it will become, more eye-opening, I guess, below, that there are, some very good reasonings for endorsing and this interpretation, including this interpretation. And if what seems pretty obvious, sentences such as 4 is even are true, that it would seem natural to endorse, the view that abstract figures actually do exist, and that seems a more right viewpoint, or a clear viewpoint. The next section, of Platonism or mathematical Platonism provides, a sketch of, the Platonist, view, and how it could be developed, or how it is developed. The following section could be mathematical Platonism. Anti-Platonism could provide, such sections or sketches of alternative to Platonism. But we will not describe the various different Platonist views, but we'll describe what the definition, or what a Platonist view, mathematical Platonist view is, or how it's defined. So a first view is that there exist abstract views of objects that are wholly non-spatio-temporal, non-physical, non-mental, and there are true mathematical sentences that provide true descriptions of such objects or figures. I use both. This discussion of Platonism that will follow will address both questions, and to start with what is meant by an abstract object among contemporary Platonists. The most common view is that the real defining trait of an abstract, object or figure is non-spatial temporality. That is, abstract objects are not located anywhere in the physical universe, and they are mostly entirely non-mental, and they have always existed, and they will always will exist. This does not preclude having mental ideas of abstract figures or objects. According to Platonism, one might have a mental idea of the number 8, and this does not follow from this, though, and that the number 8 is just a mental idea. After all, people have ideas of the moon in their heads. People might have Mars in their heads too, but it does not follow from that the moon or Mars is just an idea, because the moon and Mars, people's ideas, are distinct things. So when Platonists say that the number 8 is an abstract object, they mean to say that it is real and objective, that the thing like the moon exists independently of people and their thinking, but unlike the moon or Mars, it is non-physical. Abstract objects are also, according to Platonism, unchanging and entirely non-causal, because abstract objects are not extended in space and not made of physical matter. It follows, that you cannot enter into, cause and effect, relationships with other objects, other figures. Platonists also claim that the mathematical theorems provide a true descriptions of such objects. What does this claim amount to? Consider this: positive integers of 1, 2, 3. According to Platonism, the theory of arithmetic says what the sequence of abstract objects is like. Over the years, mathematicians have discovered all sorts of interesting ideas about the sequence. For instance, Euclid, according there are infinitely many prime numbers among the positive integers. And we're not going to talk about the sequences, more than that. Now, so far, only one kind of mathematical figure has been discussed, namely numbers. But there are many different kinds of mathematical figures and objects, function sets, vectors, circles, and so on. And for Platonists, these are all, abstract objects. Moreover, Platonists also believe there are such things as set theoretic hierarchies, and the set theory describes these structures, and so on ground for all the various branches of mathematics in general, according to Plotinus. Mathematics is the study of the nature of, various mathematical structures which are abstract, nature. Platonism has been around for a long time. We're not going to talk about how long it was around for, because I think I'm going to skip over this part, because, it's not really interesting for us. But we can talk about, I think, mathematical anti-Platonism in the next video, because that's where I want to continue. And this is going to be a very long video if I'm going to continue what it is and how it's defined and how it's what the alternative is, because that's the next part we need to go. And this is going to be just a part one of this episode. I think this is something new. I think doing something more involving philosophical ideas and philosophical themes would be very interesting to do on this channel, because I only provided a bit of it, and it wasn't, I want to do it more. So I think I'll see you in the next video, guys. See ya.